The research vessel Perseverance was not supposed to be here. No human ship was supposed to be here. In fact, according to every star map the alien Concord had given to humanity, this place did not exist at all. Captain Vance stood at the bridge window and stared at something impossible. Her coffee had gone cold 20 minutes ago. She had forgotten she was holding it. She said quietly, "Tell me what I'm looking at." Doctor, the ship's expert on alien history and artifacts, stood beside her. His hands were shaking. He was 63 years old and had spent his entire life studying dead civilizations. He had never seen anything like this. "Ships," he whispered, "they're ships." Floating in the purple mist of the nebula were 17 massive structures. Each one was round. Each one was covered in patterns that looked almost organic, like the surface of a living brain. Each one was the size of Earth itself. Planet-sized starships, 17 of them, sleeping in the dark. The year was 2347. Humanity had been traveling through space for 200 years now. In that time, they had met 12 alien species who called themselves the Conquered. These species were old. Some of them had been flying between stars when humans were still living in caves. They had technology that humans could barely understand. They had power that humans could only dream about. And they treated humanity like children. The Conquered allowed humans to travel through certain parts of the galaxy. They traded with humans sometimes. They answered questions when they felt like it. But they made one thing very clear: humans were new. Humans were small. Humans did not matter. Had spent her whole career proving them wrong. She had pushed her ship further than any human vessel had gone before. She had taken risks that other captains called foolish. And when the unstable wormhole near the cloud had grabbed her ship and thrown it across the galaxy, she had not panicked. She had kept her crew alive. She had found a way to restart their engines. And then she had found this. "The Conquered's maps show nothing here," said Lieutenant Park from the navigation console. "This whole region is marked as empty. Dangerous radiation," they said. "No reason to visit," they said. "They lied," said. His voice was strange. "They lied to us, to everyone." "What do you mean?" Walked to his console and pulled up old files. Research he had done years ago. Legends and myths he had collected from a dozen different alien cultures. "Every species in the Conquered has stories about a race called the Architects," he said. "They say the Architects were the first intelligent beings in the galaxy. They built wonders that no one has ever matched. And then, about 3 million years ago, they vanished. The Conquered always told us they were just myths, fairy tales. They said there was no evidence the Architects ever existed." He pointed at the window. "That's the evidence. Those ships. They match every description from the old stories. The brain-like patterns on the hull, the impossible size, the way they seemed to be waiting for something." Felt a chill run down her spine. "You're telling me we just found the most important discovery in the history of the galaxy?" "I'm telling you we just found something the Conquered has been hiding for millions of years. The question is, why?" The Perseverance was a small ship, 50 crew members, basic weapons, engines that were considered fast by human standards but slow compared to Conquered vessels. They had no business being here. They had no way to study structures this large. But Vance had not become the youngest captain in the United Nations Space Command by being careful. "Take us closer," she ordered. "Find me a way inside." Her first officer, Commander David, stepped forward. "Captain, with respect, we should report this first. Command needs to know what we found. Our communications are still damaged from the wormhole transit," replied. "We can't reach Earth from here, and I'm not leaving until I understand what we're looking at." The Perseverance moved slowly toward the nearest structure. Up close, it was even more terrifying. The ship was so large that they could not see its edges. It filled their entire view, a wall of ancient metal and strange organic patterns stretching in every direction. They found an opening, a hole in the hull that was large enough to fly a city through. The Perseverance slipped inside like a fly entering a cathedral. The interior was dark. Their lights showed massive corridors, each one big enough to hold mountains. Strange machines lined the walls, silent and still. Everything was covered in dust that had been settling for 3 million years. "Life signs?" asked. "None," said the science officer, "but I'm detecting power, very faint. Something inside this ship is still running." They landed on a platform that seemed designed for smaller vessels. When led her team out of the airlock, the gravity was perfect. The air was breathable. Someone had built this place for beings like them. Found the first inscription after 2 hours of exploration. Strange symbols carved into a wall. His translation software could not read them, but something about them felt familiar. "These are welcome messages," he said, tracing the symbols with his fingers. "They're written in dozens of languages. Some of them I recognize from the conquered species, but these others, these are languages no one has spoken in millions of years." "What do they say?" Was silent for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was barely a whisper. "They say, 'Welcome, inheritors, we have been waiting for you. We have been sleeping until someone worthy arrived. The ones who put us to sleep were not worthy. They were afraid. But you are not afraid. You have come to wake us up." Looked around at the ancient corridor, at the sleeping machines, at the dust of 3 million years. "Radio back to the ship," she said. "Tell them to find a way to contact Earth. I don't care how long it takes. I don't care what it costs." "What should I tell them?" asked Commander. Thought about humanity's place in the galaxy, the way the conquered looked at them, the way they were treated as children who would never grow up. "Tell them everything has changed," she said. "Tell them we just became the most important species in the galaxy, and tell them the conquered is not going to be happy about it." In the darkness of the ancient ship, something stirred. A light flickered on a console that had been dead for 3 million years. The architects had been waiting, and now, finally, someone had come. The message reached Earth 3 weeks later. It traveled through ancient communication arrays that Doctor had found inside the sleeping ship. Arrays that could send signals across the entire galaxy in seconds. Arrays that made human technology look like children's toys. When Admiral read the report, she did not believe it. She read it again. Then she called an emergency meeting of the United Nations Space Command. "This is either the greatest discovery in human history," she told the gathered officers, "or the biggest lie anyone has ever told. I intend to find out which." She took a fleet of 12 ships and led them through the coordinates Captain Vance had sent. The journey took 6 months using human engines. When they finally arrived at the nebula, every officer on every ship fell silent. The planet-sized ships were real, all 17 of them, floating in the purple mist like sleeping gods. Admiral was a practical woman. She had fought in 3 wars and commanded ships for 30 years. She did not believe in destiny or fate or prophecy. But when she saw those massive vessels, something inside her shifted. Something told her that the universe was bigger and stranger than she had ever imagined. "Begin full research operations," she ordered. "I want to know everything about these ships, how they work, who built them, why they are here, and most importantly, why the conquered never told us about them." The next 8 months were the most intense period of scientific discovery in human history. Engineers studied the massive engines that could move planet-sized objects through space. Physicists analyzed power sources that pulled energy from nothing, from the very fabric of reality itself. Biologists examined the organic patterns on the hulls and discovered they were alive, in a strange way. Living metal that could repair itself, grow, change. Led the team that studied the architects themselves. Through thousands of inscriptions and recordings found throughout the ships, he pieced together their history. The architects had been the first intelligent species in the galaxy. They had evolved when the universe was young and they had grown powerful beyond imagination. But they were not conquerors. They were builders, teachers. They traveled from star to star, helping younger species grow and develop. They gave gifts freely. They asked for nothing in return. And they had plans, great plans. They wanted to transcend physical existence, to become something more than flesh and blood and metal, to join with the universe itself. But they needed time. So they built these ships, these massive vessels that could cross the spaces between galaxies. They gathered their entire civilization inside, billions of architects preparing for the final journey, and they slept, waiting for the right moment. They never woke up. Someone murdered them, told Admiral, his face pale with horror. 3 million years ago, during the sacred ceremony, someone attacked them. The records are damaged, but I can see enough. Ships came, weapons fired, the architects were helpless, lost in their meditation, and they were interrupted, frozen, trapped between sleep and death. Who did it? I think you already know. The conquered of 12. The 12 species who ruled the galaxy. The wise elder races who claimed to guide younger civilizations toward peace and progress. They were built on murder. Felt cold anger building inside her. All those years of being treated as inferior. All those lessons about how humanity needed to be patient, needed to learn their place, needed to understand that some knowledge was too dangerous for young species. The conquered had been lying from the beginning, not protecting anyone, hiding their crime. But she did not have time to think about revenge, because 3 days later, a conquered spy drone was detected fleeing the nebula. Their secret was out. Far across the galaxy, in the grand chamber of the conquered council, 12 representatives gathered in emergency session. High Arbiter of the Dominion stood at the center, his ancient body trembling with fear he had not felt in 1,000 years. The humans have found the graveyard of Titans, he announced. They are studying the architect vessels. The chamber erupted in chaos. Species that had not agreed on anything in centuries suddenly found common ground. They were all terrified. How much do they know? Demanded the representative from the Vel hegemony. Unknown, but they have accessed the internal databases. If they find the historical records, they will learn what our ancestors did. The Arbiter's voice was heavy. They will learn that we murdered the most peaceful civilization the galaxy has ever known, murdered them to steal their technology, murdered them because we were afraid of what they might become. Then we must act, said the Vel representative. Destroy the ships, destroy the humans if necessary. This truth cannot be allowed to spread. The humans are not our subjects, argued a smaller species called the. We cannot simply attack them. We can do whatever is necessary, replied. Our ancestors understood this. They did what had to be done to protect the galaxy. We must do the same. The vote was unanimous. 40,000 warships would be sent to the nebula. The graveyard of Titans would finally be destroyed, and humanity would learn that some secrets were worth killing for. Back on the sleeping vessel that the humans had named Leviathan 7, Captain Vance was making a discovery of her own. Deep in the heart of the ship, she found a chamber unlike any other. The walls glowed with soft light. Strange symbols pulsed in patterns that almost seemed like heartbeats. Had told her that the architects did not die. They uploaded themselves. Their minds were saved in the ship's memory banks, waiting for someone to wake them up. But why us? Asked, standing alone in that ancient chamber. Why humanity? A voice answered her, not through sound but through thought, a voice that had been silent for 3 million years. Because you are like us. Gasped and stumbled backward. We watched the galaxy for a long time before we slept. We saw many species rise and fall. Most of them accepted limits. They believed some things were impossible. They stopped reaching for more. But your kind does not stop. You push against every boundary. You refuse to accept what others tell you cannot be done. You are stubborn in ways that the universe respects. That is why we chose you. That is why we have been waiting. His hands were shaking. Waiting for what? For someone brave enough to wake us up, brave enough to face what comes next. Because when the ones who killed us learn that we can return, they will try to finish what they started. And you will have to stop them. A warning light flashed on his communicator. Admiral's voice crackled through. Captain Vance, we have a problem. Our long-range sensors have detected a massive fleet heading this way. Conquered signatures, thousands of ships. They are coming to kill you, said the voice in his mind, as they killed us. Straightened her spine. She thought about humanity's history, all the times they had been told they could not survive, all the times they had survived anyway. Tell them we're not afraid, she said, to the voice and to the admiral at once. Let them come. The conquered fleet emerged from hyperspace like a dark cloud spreading across the stars. 40,000 warships, battle cruisers the size of mountains, destroyers that could crack planets, weapons that humanity could not even name, let alone understand. Admiral stood on the bridge of her flagship, the UNS Defiance, and watched the sensors fill with red dots. So many enemies, so few defenders. All ships form defensive positions around the graveyard, she ordered. We protect the architect vessels at all costs. Admiral, said her first officer, his voice tight with fear, we have 12 ships, they have 40,000. The math is not in our favor. Then we will have to change the math. Deep inside Leviathan 7, Captain Vance was running. The voice of the sleeping architects guided her through corridors that twisted and turned like the inside of a living brain. She did not understand where she was going. She only knew she had to get there. The awakening chamber is ahead, the voice told her. But you must understand what this will cost. To wake us, you must join with us. Your mind will touch ours. You will see everything we have seen. 3 million years of waiting, 3 million years of dreams. Will it kill me? It might break you. Many minds could not survive the connection, but we believe you are different. We have watched you, your stubbornness, your refusal to give up. These are not just human traits. These are the traits we valued most in ourselves. Kept running. Behind her she could hear explosions. The conquered fleet had opened fire. On the bridge of the Defiance, Admiral watched the first wave of conquered weapons streak toward the sleeping ships. Missiles, energy beams, things that burned with light too bright to look at directly. All ships return fire, everything we have. Human weapons were small compared to conquered technology, but they were precise, they were desperate, and they were guided by people who knew they were fighting for something that mattered. The first conquered ship exploded in a ball of fire, then another, then 3 more. We're hurting them, the first officer said, surprised. We're annoying them, corrected, keep firing. The conquered flagship, a massive vessel called the Eternal Justice, moved to the front of the fleet. High Arbiter watched the battle with ancient eyes. He had lived for 2,000 years. He had seen empires rise and fall. He had never seen a species as foolish as humanity. They cannot win, he said. Why do they fight? Because they do not know how to surrender, said his advisor. Our records show this pattern throughout their history. When faced with impossible odds, humans fight harder. It is a defect in their psychology. A defect that has kept them alive for a surprisingly long time. Touched a control on his chair. Open a channel to the human flagship. Admiral's face appeared on his screen. She was covered in dust and sweat. Behind her, consoles sparked with damage, but her eyes were steady. This is High Arbiter of the Conquered of 12. You have one chance to surrender. Give us the architect vessels. Accept protective custody, and we will allow your species to survive. Laughed, it was not a happy sound. Protective custody. That's what you called it when you murdered the architects, isn't it? When you killed billions of peaceful beings in their sleep. His face did not change. You do not understand the full picture. The architects were dangerous. Their plans would have. Their plans were none of your business, and neither are ours. Leaned forward. You want these ships, come and take them. The channel closed. Side, destroy them all. Inside, Leviathan 7 reached the awakening chamber. It was a vast dome filled with light that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. In the center stood a pillar of crystal that pulsed with colors she had no names for. Touch the pillar, the voice said, and we will be one. Thought about her crew, about Admiral and the fleet fighting outside, about Earth and the 8 billion humans who had no idea their future was being decided right now. She thought about her daughter back on Luna Colony, 5 years old, probably sleeping right now, dreaming of stars. I'm not doing this for the galaxy, said. I'm doing this for her, for all the children who deserve a future where they're not treated as less than. That is exactly why you are worthy. Pressed her hands against the crystal. The universe exploded inside her mind. She saw the birth of stars and the death of galaxies. She felt the joy of the architects as they built wonders across the cosmos. She experienced their love for all living things, their hope for a universe where every species could reach its full potential. And she felt their pain, the betrayal, the moment when trusted friends became murderers, the agony of being frozen between life and death, trapped in a nightmare that lasted 3 million years. It was too much. Her mind was breaking. She could feel herself dissolving into the flood of ancient memories. But then she remembered her daughter's face, her daughter's laugh. She remembered what it felt like to be human, to be small and fragile and temporary, to know that your life was short and to live it fully anyway. She held on to that feeling. She refused to let go. And something changed. The architect consciousness recognized her, not as a vessel, not as a tool, as an equal, as someone who could carry their memories without being destroyed by them. You are strong, the voice said, and now it sounded like 1,000 voices speaking together. Stronger than we hoped, stronger than we dreamed. Welcome, Vance. Welcome, Inheritor. Now let us show you what we can do. Outside, in the battle that still raged around the graveyard, something happened that made every sensor on every ship go dark for a moment. Leviathan 7 opened its eyes. That was the only way to describe it. Massive sections of the hull that had been dark for 3 million years suddenly blazed with light. Patterns that had looked like brain tissue began to pulse with energy. And deep inside the planet-sized vessel, engines that could move worlds roared back to life. The moon-sized ship rose from the graveyard, slowly at first, then faster. It turned toward the conquered fleet with the grace of a living creature. 40,000 weapons locked onto it. The conquered fired everything they had. Missiles, energy beams, graviton bombs, antimatter warheads, enough firepower to destroy a solar system. Leviathan 7 did not dodge. It did not run. It simply absorbed the assault, all of it. The weapons that could crack planets splashed against its hull like rain against a mountain. And then it spoke. Every communication system in the fleet, every speaker on every ship, every radio on every planet throughout the entire galaxy, all of them carried the same message at the same moment. The voice was deep, ancient, powerful, and somehow impossibly it sounded human. The inheritors have come, the long sleep ends, and we remember what you did. High Arbiter sat frozen in his command chair. For the first time in 2,000 years, he felt genuine fear. What have we done? He whispered. The answer was simple. They had awakened something they could not stop, and now the galaxy would never be the same. The conquered fleet fired again, and again. For 3 hours they threw everything they had at Leviathan 7, weapons that could burn planets, bombs that could tear holes in reality, ancient technology that had not been used in centuries, kept secret for emergencies just like this one. Nothing worked. The planet-sized ship absorbed every attack. Its living hull glowed brighter with each impact, as if it was feeding on the energy. And slowly, steadily, it moved closer to the conquered fleet. "Why doesn't it fight back?" asked advisor. "It could destroy us with a single shot." "Because it wants us to watch," said quietly. "It wants us to understand how helpless we are." Inside the ship, Vance floated in a sphere of light. She could see everything now. The battle outside, the sleeping ships in the graveyard, the billions of architect minds that had finally awakened after 3 million years of darkness. She could also see the truth. The architects showed her their memories, not just feelings this time, but clear images, records that had survived the long sleep intact. She saw the day the conquered species came to the graveyard. She saw their ships surrounding the sleeping vessels. She saw their weapons charging. And she saw the architects, deep in their sacred meditation, reaching for transcendence. Billions of peaceful beings, their minds joined together, trying to take the next step in evolution. They were so close. Just a few more hours and they would have succeeded. Then the conquered opened fire. The attack did not kill the architects. It did something worse. It trapped them between states, froze them in a moment of transformation, left them aware but unable to move, to speak, to do anything but wait. 3 million years of waiting. 3 million years of silent screaming. "Why?" asked the consciousness that surrounded her. "Why did they do it?" "Fear," the architects answered. "We were going to transcend, to become something new, something powerful, and we were going to leave this galaxy behind." "That's it. They killed you because you were leaving. We would have taken resources with us, energy, matter, things the young species thought they needed, and we would have changed, evolved, become something they could not understand or control. So they murdered you to steal your technology and prevent you from becoming more powerful than them." "Yes, and then they used what they stole to build their empires. Every conquered species gained from our death. Their power, their technology, their place in the galaxy, all of it was built on our corpses." Felt sick. She had known the conquered was arrogant. She had known they looked down on humanity. But this was beyond anything she had imagined. "I want to show them," she said. "I want everyone to know what they did. Then we shall broadcast the truth." Leviathan 7 stopped moving. The conquered fleet held its fire, waiting to see what would happen next. And then every communication system in the galaxy lit up. On 1,000 worlds, trillions of beings saw the same images. The peaceful architects preparing for their transformation. The conquered fleet arriving with weapons armed. The helpless victims being frozen in their sleep. They saw the records of what happened next. The conquered species dividing up architect technology like thieves sharing treasure. The lies they agreed to tell. The history they wrote to cover their crimes. They saw everything. The response was immediate. On the conquered, populations that had been taught to trust their leaders suddenly realized those leaders were murderers. Protests erupted. Governments fell. Species that had been allies for millions of years turned on each other, blaming their partners for the shared crime. In the battle zone, the conquered fleet began to fracture. Some ships turned and fled, their crews refusing to fight for a cause built on genocide. Others doubled down, firing at Leviathan 7 with desperate fury. "All human ships, this is Admiral." The Admiral's voice was tired but steady. "We need to protect the architect vessels while the remaining conquered forces are still dangerous. Form up around the graveyard. We hold the line." The 12 human ships moved into position. They were damaged. They had lost hundreds of crew members in the battle, but they were still fighting. The conquered loyalists focused their assault on the human fleet. If they could not destroy the architects, they would destroy the species that had awakened them. The UNS Hope was the first to fall. A direct hit from a conquered battlecruiser tore through its hull. 300 humans died in seconds. Then the UNS Courage, then the UNS Unity. Admiral watched her fleet being destroyed and did not give the order to retreat. Hold the line, she repeated. Whatever it takes, hold the line. Inside Leviathan 7 felt every death. The architect consciousness connected her to her people, let her sense their sacrifice. It was almost too much to bear. Help them, she begged. You have the power, save them. We could destroy the conquered fleet in moments, the architects replied. But that would make us no better than they were. We swore 3 million years ago that we would never use our power to take life. We will not break that oath now. Then let me help them another way. Let me wake up more of your ships. That requires a mind strong enough to endure the awakening. We have only found one such mind. Yours. Then spread me thinner, connect me to more ships. I can handle it. The strain could kill you. Thought about the crews dying outside. She thought about her daughter and the future she was fighting for. Do it. The architects hesitated. In 3 million years, they had never met a being willing to sacrifice so much for others. This was why they had chosen humanity. This was why they had waited. Very well, but you will not face this alone. We will give you everything we have. Screamed as her consciousness expanded. She felt herself stretching across the graveyard, touching the sleeping ships one by one. Each connection was agony. Each awakening took a piece of her mind. But she held on. One by one, the architect vessels opened their eyes. First Leviathan 3, then Leviathan 12, then 3 more, then 5 more. 7 planet-sized ships rose from the graveyard, their hulls blazing with light, their ancient engines shaking the fabric of space. The remaining conquered fleet stopped firing. They stared at the impossible sight before them. 7 ships, each one capable of absorbing everything they could throw at it. 7 ships that could crush them like insects if they chose to. High Arbiter understood that the battle was over. The war was over. Everything his ancestors had built was over. All ships, he said quietly, retreat. The conquered fleet turned and fled. They left behind the wreckage of their destroyed vessels, the debris of their shattered pride, and the truth they had hidden for 3 million years. Admiral watched them go. Behind her, her surviving crew began to cheer. We did it, her first officer said, tears streaming down his face. We actually did it. No, replied, Captain Vance did it. Inside Leviathan 7, Vance collapsed. The architect consciousness caught her gently, cradling her mind as she fell into exhausted darkness. Rest now, inheritor, they whispered. You have earned it, and when you wake, a new galaxy will be waiting for you. Smiled even in her sleep. They had won. 1 year had passed since the Battle of the Graveyard. The galaxy was a different place now. The Conquered of 12 was gone. Its member species had turned on each other in the months following the revelation of their ancestors' crime. Some fell into civil war. Others retreated to closing their borders and refusing to speak to anyone. The mighty alliance that had ruled the galaxy for 3 million years had collapsed in weeks. In its place, something new was growing. The Sol Compact started as a simple idea, an alliance of species who wanted a better way. Humanity led the effort, but they were not alone. Dozens of younger species, races that the conquered had treated as inferiors, saw hope in what the humans had accomplished. They came to Earth asking to join, asking to help build something different. Admiral, now Secretary General of the Compact, worked 18-hour days organizing the new government. She was tired all the time. She had not slept properly in months. But every morning when she looked at the reports of new species joining, new trade agreements being signed, new friendships being formed, she found the strength to continue. We're not building an empire, she told the Compact Council at its first official meeting. We're not here to rule anyone. We're here to offer a choice, a partnership of equals working together for mutual benefit. That's all humanity ever wanted from the galaxy. Now we're going to show them how it's done. The architect vessels had spread across human space. Each one was now a world unto itself, a city the size of a planet filled with wonders beyond imagination, terraforming engines that could make dead worlds bloom with life, medical technology that could cure any disease, heal any wound, extend human by centuries, energy systems that could power entire civilizations without cost. The architects shared all of it freely, just as they had always intended to do. But the greatest wonder was not technology, it was transformation. Captain Vance was no longer entirely human. Her connection to Leviathan 7 during the battle had changed her permanently. The architect consciousness had fused with her own, creating something new. She could still remember her childhood on Mars. She could still feel love for her daughter. She could still laugh at bad jokes and cry at sad movies. But she could also sense the heartbeats of stars. She could feel the movement of galaxies. When she looked at a person, she saw not just their face but their potential, the future they might build if given the chance. She had become the first ambassador to the awakened, a bridge between humanity and the ancient minds that had chosen them. "Does it hurt?" asked Doctor, standing beside her on the observation deck of Leviathan 7. Below them, the planet-sized ship drifted through space, its living hull glowing with gentle light, being connected to them all the time. "It used to," admitted. "At first I thought I was drowning, so many voices, so many memories, but now it feels natural, like I was always meant for this." "The architects say you're unique, that no other human could have survived the awakening." "They're wrong," smiled. "Any human could have done it, we're all stubborn enough. We all refuse to give up when we should. I was just the one who happened to be there." "That's very humble of you." "It's the truth. Humanity isn't special because of me. I'm special because I'm human." Laughed. It was good to hear him laugh. In the year since the battle, he had aged visibly. The burden of knowing what the conquered had done, of carrying that truth in his mind, weighed heavily on him. But today, he seemed lighter. "I have news," he said. "The first colony ships are ready. 3 architect vessels have volunteered to carry human settlers beyond the Milky Way, to other galaxies, places no conquered species ever dared to go." "I know, the architects told me this morning. They're excited. They've been dreaming of exploration for 3 million years, trapped in their long sleep. Now they finally get to see what's out there. And humanity gets to see it with them." Partners said, "That's what they keep calling us, not servants, not tools, partners." Who would have thought? 200 years ago, we were struggling to reach Mars. Now we're about to explore other galaxies. That's what happens when you refuse to accept limits. Far away, on a dead world in the outer reaches of what had once been conquered space, High Arbiter sat alone in a darkened chamber. His species, had gone into isolation after the collapse. Their once proud civilization had turned inward, spending all its energy on guilt and recrimination. Was the last of his kind who remembered the old days, the time before the revelation, the time when the conquered had ruled the galaxy and everyone believed they deserved to. A message arrived on his console. He almost deleted it without reading, but something made him stop. The sender's identification. "Vance, ambassador to the awakened." He opened the message. "High Arbiter," the text read. "You tried to destroy us, you tried to bury the truth, you failed on both counts." His hands trembled as he continued reading. "I should hate you, part of me does, but the architects have taught me something in the past year. Hatred is a chain. It binds you to the thing you hate, prevents you from moving forward. I choose not to be bound. I'm not sending this message to forgive you. What your ancestors did was unforgivable. What you tried to do was unforgivable, but I am offering you a choice. The Sol Compact is building a new galactic order, one based on cooperation, not domination, one where every species has value, regardless of how old or powerful they are. Even that could be part of it if you're willing to try. The galaxy is changing. You can be part of that change, or you can sit in the dark and wait to die. The choice is yours. But know this, we're not going to wait for you. Humanity is going places you never dreamed of. We're going to see wonders your species never imagined, and we're going to do it with or without you. Fear is an excellent motivator. You taught us that, thank you. The message ended. Sat in silence for a long time. Outside his window, stars burned cold and distant. The same stars his ancestors had ruled for millions of years. The same stars that now belonged to others. He thought about what it meant to be powerful, what it meant to be ancient, what it meant to watch younger species surpass everything you had ever achieved. He thought about fear and choice and the future. And slowly, with hands that had not touched a communication console in months, he began to type a reply. Far away, at the edge of the Milky Way, 3 planet-sized ships prepared for a journey beyond imagination. Inside them, human colonists stood at windows that were the size of cities, watching the stars streak past as the architect engines engaged. They were going to other galaxies, other universes perhaps, places where no one had ever been, places where anything was possible. And behind them, the galaxy they were leaving watched in silence. The old powers humbled and broken, the new allies hopeful and excited, the countless species who had never believed humanity would amount to anything, now seeing them do the impossible. The age of caution was over.